Hey, welcome back to another Just 15 Minutes. My name's David, and apparently I'm here to keep talking at you. So if you haven't already switched away to another interesting video, well, let's jump in. So a little while ago, I did a podcast episode about rambling on about note taking and productivity apps, which coming from me is a bit of a joke. But there we go. And it was mainly about sticking with tools, no matter what. Well, use whatever works for you, basically. And is it really that important? I mean, use a notepad and pen if you really want to. But over the years, I've used things like Evernote and things like that, which the reason I think I moved to OneNote a long time ago was because it had, well, a couple of features. One feature at the time that was very specific to the work I was doing, my day job, which was also gathering like requirements for, software projects, integration projects and whatnot. And OneNote had the ability to, obviously with the consent of whoever's in the room, to be able to record the conversation, but also as it was recording, if I typed bullet points about this is where they're talking about X, Y, Z, and then carry on talking, and then a bit later I could put some other notes. Wherever those notes were, it was synchronized to the timestamp of the audio. So I believe even back then OneNote could do some do the transcribe sort of process. But for me, it wasn't so much about that because conversations tend to be very organic and rambling. Well, they do from me anyway. But the idea is I was more interested in if I could see in my OneNote, my note, if I had, say, 10 points there over the course of that hour conversation, sometimes 2 hours conversation. Anyway, that's another story. What I could do is go and click on those bits of text and it would jump to that bit in the audio. And that was a killer feature for me because it really did help. Because there's nothing worse than you trying to have a conversation about gathering requirements and trying to have the engaging conversation. It's not easy. Well, it wasn't for me anyway. And obviously a little bit later, when we started getting stylus or pens on tablets, the ability to do ink, writing, was quite nice. I quite enjoyed that occasionally, doodling little diagrams and whatnot. So that's why I stuck with OneNote. And I don't know if you want me to go through that. There's probably lots of videos out there that show that. But if you want to show, if you want me to show you the specific thing that I was using in OneNote for that audio capture, then let me know, and I'll probably do a video on that. But today, and this is going against all what I said in my little podcast, is Obsidian. Obsidian Notes has been around for a few years now. Not that long. It's a fairly newcomer in that world of note taking. I know when I first saw it, which was only a few months after it probably came out, it was really very basic. I haven't quite moved from OneNote yet because I've got a lot of stuff in there. But the way that Obsidian is moving, I'm getting more and more tempted, basically. So that's what we're going to jump into, is look at Obsidian, look at some of the good points and the advancements in the way that you can have, dare I say, AI embedded in your note-taking experience. OneNote certainly has Copilot, but right now, as of the time of this recording at least, you have to have a business Microsoft 365 account to get Copilot. Okay, and I think perhaps, and I don't know this for sure, but you might even have to pay extra. So I've seen the icon in OneNote, but it's disabled on mine because I've got just a personal account. So I'm sure that it probably is really useful, but it's not worth it for me just personally to pay for a business account. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be stepping through with Obsidian and some of the little aspects that for me it certainly helps. Okay, so let's jump in. So first of all, what is Obsidian? Well, it's a note-taking app, and one of its main selling points is that the data is stored on your local machine, okay? And it's also stored in a textual format using something called Markdown. It's been around for a long, long time. It's a textual um, based file where you can have things like hash and then a title, and it will make that something like this, like a main title. There's lots of little markdown commands, but you don't really need to know markdown or anything like that. But it basically gives you the control of your data on your device. Okay, so that's one of its biggest selling points. And it's not in a proprietary format. You can look at that text file. It's stored on your machine. Now, interestingly for me, and this is where I sell my soul to the devil every day. Well, maybe hopefully not, but you get the idea. With a lot of the big tech companies, you've got convenience, and I've got that with OneNote and Microsoft and the OneDrive I was going to say as well. Sorry, and it synchronizes all to my mobile phone, cell phone, tablet, whatever it might be. So there is a benefit there, but you are buying into those ecosystems, aren't you? So Obsidian, it's Markdown, it's a textual file local on your machine, but that was one of the big deal breakers for me at the time because I do like that synchronization capability. Funny enough, when I did have a play with Obsidian quite a few months ago, I did store, and I'll show you shortly, what they call a vault, which is your, one collection of notes essentially, and that's on your local file system. But I put that local file system on my OneDrive, and of course that was synchronized. The only problem was that with Android, I think it was okay on iOS, maybe on an Apple phone, but certainly on Android, I think due to permissions and things, it wasn't a slick process, and I had to use another third-party application called FolderSync, which was absolutely brilliant, by the way. But it was just a clat trying to get everything to work, and therein lies the challenge. You do sell your soul a little bit for the convenience, so it's where your allegiances lie again. I'm not going to get into that, but there we go. So it was the synchronization bit. Now, it's not new. It's been in Obsidian for some time, but they do have this sync option, okay? And it's $4 US a month, which I personally don't think is a great deal of money. I mean, money going out, all these little subscriptions do add up. But for $4 a month, and the good thing is, it doesn't store the data in the cloud. It just synchronizes from device to device. And while we're at that point, I'm currently on a Windows machine. Don't shoot me. But there you go. If I go to platforms, I do have the choice of, an iPhone, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux or Linux, if I'm ever going to get over that. But you've got a lot of options there, and the synchronization process will sync across all of those devices, which I think is great because you've still got control over your data. There's no doubt about that, and you've got the convenience of getting notes synchronized as you need them, and for me that's quite a main feature, to be honest. From a pricing perspective, for a personal use, it's free forever. If you're in a commercial organization, that's really pretty cheap, isn't it, for a decent sort of note-taking app? So that's pretty cool as well. By the way, I'm not getting sponsored for this. I'm just saying this is what I found quite interesting. So Obsidian is very good, and in the next little section, I'm going to go through looking at some Obsidian over the years has actually built in like plugins, where you can get sort of extra features basically. So we're going to have a look at that in a second. So let's have an actual look at Obsidian. Okay, here it is. There we go. I'm just going to delete that. Sorry, not very professional video. I'm I don't have any professional slick video editors or anything like that, so there you go. But it's a very simplistic view. Okay, down at the bottom here, it has moved around a bit over the course of some updates, but this is a vault. I've just called it test. Okay, if we have a look at manage vaults, when you initially install Obsidian, you're asked to create a new vault. Mine is on my C drive under Obsidian Notes. It is basically just a folder called test, and it will ultimately, all your notes that you take are going to be essentially text files. Okay. So, and you'll notice, as I mentioned, if you've got the synchronization option in Obsidian, that $4 a month, then you can sign in and get that synchronized across devices, which if I move to Obsidian, I certainly will take advantage of that. Okay, but that is a vault. So it's the usual thing. You've got lots of little niceties. It's a very clean interface. There are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of shortcuts, but over here on the left hand side you've got a command palette, so you can do loads of bits and pieces from here. You can assign all the different things. You can change the obviously you've got all formatting, dark mode, light mode, goodness knows what. You can export to a PDF, which is great, I think. There's so much you can do. It has moved on in a big way from the time that I looked at it. But anyway, the idea is you've got a lot of things here. One of the other features, which is a little bit of eye candy, a little bit sort of gimmicky until you realize the power of it, and that is this, it's got a graph view. Okay, and I haven't got a lot in here at the moment. In fact, as you can see, they're spaced out. You know, I can click that little thing and I'll do an animation, but there's nothing for it to do. So if I go back to welcome, I can be typing away, yeah, something, oh, I can't even spell, but you get the idea. Okay, there's lots of different formats, nice shortcuts, but you can actually do backlinks to different things. Now, I can't remember if you can link to other vaults. So a vault is sort of like a workspace, but it's the main vault of your files. You can have multiple vaults, certainly, so you can isolate things completely. And by the way, one word of note is all the settings that I'm about to go through are specific to a vault. They get stored. So anything that you set up in one vault doesn't automatically get transferred to another. Okay, but you can do things like insert a link. You've got an external link, but I can add a link to something else. Okay, you can see it's got now a little bit of a link there, so you can start to build up your knowledge base or whatever it is that you want to go for. But then when you go to the graph view, of course, yep, it's starting to make a bit more sense now. And this is very, yeah, it's a little bit gimmicky, but it's quite nice, you know, but you can imagine after a while, if you've got a lot of stuff that you're researching, you've got all of these sort of links going on, where they're going to, you know, you can follow those through in a very nice visual way. Like I said, at first I thought, well, that's just a gimmick, but it is actually quite an interesting feature, I think. The good thing as well, of course, is that as you click on these nodes, it will take you to those parts of the document that you're wanting to go to. Okay, yeah, jump to something else there. So it is actually quite a useful feature. The other thing that you can do is if we go to the settings down here with this little cog, okay, you've got core plugins that Obsidian themselves provide, and one thing that is relatively new is the audio recorder, which I think is brilliant. At the moment, it records audio and saves them as an attachment. I haven't even looked yet if there is any way of doing a transcription. Dare I say, we could probably run that through an AI and you'd get that anyway. But something like the OneNote bit, where I can be recording audio, make notes as bullet points, and then be able to play them back, you know, click on those links to see, listen to the video. Listen to the audio at that moment in time. So that would be quite nice. Backlinks, yep, as we've just seen. There's a lot of other things in here. There's a lot of other Obsidian specific sort of plugins. Okay, but you do have community plugins, and there's lots. You can do a browse, and there are lots and lots and lots and lots. Now, I've got two at the moment that we're going to have a look at in the next part. But I've got Ink, which is by Dale De Silva. There's a few of these, by the way, but this one worked really quite nicely straight out of the box. Lets me, if I've got a stylus, a pen, an Apple pen or whatever, I can, draw to my heart's content. Okay, that's great. I've also got One AI Assistant, which is basically a plugin for ChatGPT, but also at the moment of the time of this recording, you can also use Claude, the anthropic, which has been gaining a lot of visibility in the AI world for a while, actually. So you can actually do that, and we'll have a look at how to configure those things in a short while. But yeah, there's lots of different overrides that you can do, and again, you can have hotkeys. You can create your own hotkeys for certain things, so it's very configurable for sure. So let's have a look at those plugins a little bit closer. Okay, let me jump into the browser, because again, you can go through the community plugins and browse, but I'll put these links in. But this is one that I found, which was an AI assistant. Okay, I've installed it already, but this is what you would do. You'd go and have a look at the community, look for the plugins, and off you go. And of course, most of these are open source, if not all of them so far that I've seen. So you can actually have a look, if you're a Cody type person, how it's built and all that sort of thing, and maybe get some inspiration to build something yourself. Okay. The other one was to do with the handwriting, but we'll get to that in a sec. But what I am also going to do is just show you, I have got an Anthropic. If you haven't heard of Anthropic, they have created a chatbot called Claude. You probably heard of it. It is up there with ChatGPT and all the others around. And the idea is, if you log in, I'm using a free version for all of these things at the moment. But in Anthropic, when you log in, you can create what they call an API key. Okay, an API, application programming interface. Basically, it's how a lot of systems communicate with each other. Story for another day. But the idea is, we generate a key. Well, I'm going to delete all these afterwards, so don't worry. And that's going to be important in a second. I've done the same for ChatGPT. I've logged into OpenAI. It's a free account at the moment, and I've gone through my profile and looked for API keys. Okay, now they used to have something called user API keys. They're still active, but they prefer you to have a project. Now I've only got a default project, but you can see where that's going. You can split projects up, so you've got different collections of things, but I've just got one default project, and you can see I've got Obsidian Notes. I've created that name myself. It gave me a key, and those two things are going to be important, because if we go back to Obsidian, okay, I'm going to go into the settings, okay, and you'll notice down at the bottom, because I've already enabled these plugins, again, all you do is go through community plugins, choose the plugin, and say install, and they appear here. Okay, but if I go to AI Assistant there, you can see at the moment this this plugin provides OpenAI, that's ChatGPT. Okay, I've pasted my key in there. I'm going to delete them afterwards, and also the Anthropic one. Now, just to be aware, with the free version of OpenAI, you are a little bit limited with some of these GPT models that you can use. If you've got a paid subscription, you certainly can use all of them. Okay, but with Anthropic, there's a few flavors of Claude. I'm using 3.5, which is the latest one as of the time of this recording anyway. Okay, and it's free. So there's a few other bits in there as well. You can also generate an image directly in Obsidian with DALL-E for this case, but you can. I think over time, they'll increase this to other providers. In fairness, and hats off to whoever developed this. It is really just an interface to those chatbots to save you going outside of Obsidian. At the same time, somebody's put the work into doing this, so kudos to them. So, and the same thing with my ink option there. I've got, I can put. I haven't actually got a stylus on my main PC, so I can't actually show you that, but it does work really nicely, and again, really well done, sort of for writing a plugin there. Worth donating a few cups of coffee there, I think. But anyway, so the AI assistant, that's how it's configured. Okay. Now, just while we're here, I'll show you two ways of doing this, but I generated a hotkey. So in here, the name of that plugin is called AI Assistant. So if I just type AI, it comes up with all of the AI assistants there. And as you can see, I've done Control A for the time being to open the assistant chat. There are other things that you can do, okay, with the AI side of things. But if I'm in a note, one thing, if you can't remember the shortcuts or anything like that, you can go over to the left. This is the latest version of Obsidian, by the way. I know some of the menus and the displays did change over time, but this is the latest version of the time of this recording. There's my little audio option, but just above it, you've got the command palette. Okay, so there's your command palette. You can export to PDFs, as we said, which is really nice. Open another vault, you can do formatting, but if I were to type AI there, you can see those same options. So if I can't remember the shortcut, I can come here. Okay, so I can click there, and it's saying, okay, what can I do? So because I'm British, what time is tea? Because tea is important, apparently. So if I do a submit there, you can see ultimately what it's done. It's embedding this experience in Obsidian. Okay. Now, this AI assistant is exactly that. It's really just using those AI chatbots like ChatGPT and Claude. But it's quite nice. I can copy that and I can just paste that in down there. Okay. I can do then. I could link from OneNote there, put a link, and then you've started to build up your knowledge base and all of that sort of thing with your lovely little graphy thing. But you can see there, it's done a good job, but it isn't working on your local data. It's got no knowledge of your local notes to be anything intelligent with. It's going out to those chatbots just as you would do if you go to the browser. So the last thing I'm going to show you, it's a very brief one because it isn't available, well, to me yet anyway, but I'm going to show you that where it's actually an AI that is actually aware of your notes. Spooky. But anyway, but it could be a really useful plugin again. But this one is quite useful. Again, just very quickly, I could do Control A in my case, and I could actually generate an image. So if I wanted an image of a tea party or something like that, I could put that there. But let's have a look at the next option, the final one for today. Okay, the final option I wanted to share with you today, whether you like it or not, is moving on to, well, there's two things, but one's a little bonus one at the end, but something I wasn't aware of. But there's another plugin for Obsidian, okay? It's called Obsistence. Great name. I found it from watching a YouTube video, Go to Go, I think her name is, but got a company that are doing a lot of AI agents and lovely things. But this is an application that sadly I haven't got access to at the moment. Hint, hint. I'm looking out for my email. But anyway, it's a little bit like that AI plugin that I showed in the previous part of the video, but there is a big difference here. As you can see from the screen, and I did watch a little video of this actually working, but you can see it sort of plugs in into this right hand side here, just a bit like a lot of these Copilot type things, etc. But the big difference is that it's aware of your notes, so it can work. It can still, it's using LLMs, but it's able to do more sort of intelligent stuff. Like it can go out to the chat bots and still ask like ChatGPT, blah blah blah, whatever you want to know. But also something called, it can use Perplexity to do some research, which I'll show you very briefly in a second. But you can see there it seamlessly web searches in your notes and joins everything up, so it's got AI knowledge of your data. I'm pretty sure they're using something like RAG, which is Retrieve Augmented Generation. So it's using the power of large language models, but being able to make sense of your data as well. Now that could be a little bit spooky, but bearing in mind, this is data that you control. It's on your machine. Even if you've got that sync capability, it's still on that machine. It's not being held in the cloud. And I don't know this 100%, but it doesn't appear that Persistence is going to be doing that either. Okay. I do want to check the details of that, but the main fly of I just read that. It's a great professional video, this, isn't it? But the main point of Obsidian is the fact that you own the data. So I can't believe they're moving away from that ethos. So yeah, and lots of visualizations. It's got image generation. I don't know if it's using just DALL-E and things like that underneath the hood. But again, you want to generate an image for your notes, off you go, you know. So there we go. So you can see there's a few little notes. I'll put the links below, but that looks like, to me, that is the Copilot for OneNote that I've been searching for, that isn't available because I don't have a business plan for Microsoft. So if this turns out to be what I think it is, it's another little hook to maybe make me move to Obsidian, possibly. And the final bit, because it was noting down in one of the little examples down here about using Perplexity to do some research. Perplexity has been around since about 2022, I think, so it's relatively new, again, as the time of this recording, but it's essentially a knowledge base. In fact, I used, funny enough, Copilot in my Microsoft Edge browser, and you can see there, Perplexity is an AI-powered conversational search engine. There we go. So why do the work? But anyway, I did have a look in, but ultimately it's using natural language processing to go and help you do research, search the web. You can actually integrate this direct into Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge because they use the same engine. So in other words, you can make Perplexity the AI search engine as default. So instead of using Google or Bing or anything else, you could use this. Yep, by all means, go and check all the, FAQs and the what they do with your data, but ultimately that could be quite an interesting research tool. So that's Perplexity as a little bit of a bonus here, but I'm not really covering any more of that today because I think I've rambled on way long enough. So anyway, that's what I've got. Is Obsidian going to move me to OneNote? Maybe. It's certainly got a good importer for OneNote. Obviously, for personal use, it's free. Even with the sync option at $4 a month, that's not too big a deal to get that convenience of getting your data synced across different devices. So anyway, that's what I've got for this time around. Until next time, take care, and we will catch you on that next one.